All right, sketch 97. We are just moving right along here, getting up there in years. I can't believe we've actually made it this far. So, okay, cool. Well, let me shut up and let's get straight to it. I had a couple ideas I wanted to try out. I have this improv creation, this pre-built mega rack situation thing here. And also, on top of that, I wanted to go back and use our random jumping off point template, which I think is just hella fun. And yeah, okay, so let's roll the dice, so to speak. Style, okay, wild card. That means, sweet, I get to pick whatever I want. So, okay, well then we'll figure that out as we go. Let's let some of these others help inform that. We've got one instrument. We've got to roll again. Okay, analog. Pretty easy there. Let's get that going. Actually, I should go ahead and move this over into a MIDI clip. And let's get this over into here. Okay, effects. Only one effect. Oof. Use pre-made effects rack. Yikes. Okay, so let's find one that we've made that has a lot of bang for the buck. Audio effects racks. Got a lot to choose from. Well, you know, certainly this one. This will make life so much easier. That's such a cop-out, though, as it is the most egregiously simple way to make a drone. Beat repeat. Yeah, okay, cool. And of course, you know, with all rules in sketching, in my opinion, you gotta deviate at some point. You gotta break those rules. So, okay, tempo, roll again. 140 to 161. All right, speaking of breaking rules, let's go ahead and slow it down. And the key of B. Okay, so let's get rid of all of this. Don't need this crap anymore. Let's pull this into there. I feel like sketching is a lot of housekeeping sometimes, a lot of getting things just right in place. But of course, you know, the more you can get your template set up correctly, the better. The more you can get to just doing fun things and getting those ideas out. So let's just, I guess, I'm just gonna start playing some random keys on the keyboard. All right, let's start with that. As terrible as that sounds, one of the challenges with sketching, I always like to try and see if I can make gold out of garbage. Not that what we do here ends up being gold, but I do think there's some merit in trying to challenge oneself to try and see if you can take an old sketch you've done and actually turn it into something interesting. It's not always easy, and I find for myself I need a special kind of energy, almost like an adventurous spirit of, you know, wanting to tackle something to make that kind of a difficult project work. And some days I even have that energy and I sit down with an old sketch and it just doesn't work out. That can be disheartening. I always try to remind myself that even if the sketch sounds like garbage, you still learn something along the way. I usually try out some kind of new idea. Oh, number 9. You are sounding insane. Let's see if we can't. God, I really wish there was like a random dice button right there. We can just mix it all up right immediately. I think there's a Max for Live that can handle that. Cool. And I think we need to get some reverb in there already, but let's go ahead and have a listen to this improv mega rack here. Kind of a nice, almost potentially tropical vibe here. We've explored some of those styles in the past, and I do really enjoy like Andrew Peckler's work. He is a great artist. I highly recommend checking out his Bandcamp page, Andrew Peckler. One of my favorite artists. doing a lot of the eclectic kind of stuff. Uses a lot of samples and basic pitching like this of like, you know, really sublime chords and things. Those seventh chords, can't get enough of those. Alright, I'm not really sure what's happening here. We got some space birds, so that's really setting a nice eclectic tropical vibe. I kind of feel like we should slow this down a little bit more. Alright, let's see if we can animate this and make something more interesting kind of happen there. Looks like we got something coming out of everything, but I'm not seeing anything coming out of burst. This is definitely a CPU hog. Whatever's going on inside here was horribly inefficiently built. But sometimes you just gotta stack and layer effects egregiously until something interesting happens and not really worry about efficiency or the future too much. It's kind of sketching as an in-the-moment thing. You really have to sort of forget about rules for a bit. Sometimes, like we've seen here, having rules in the beginning helps give you at least a direction jumping off point. And I find that, for me, pretty useful. Doesn't work for everyone, of course. You know, your ultimate journey in this is trying to find a method and means that works for you. For me, it's a lot of trying new things. That keeps it fun, it keeps it interesting. If I did the same thing every single day, I think ultimately I probably would just become really uninspired. And that's sort of, I guess, maybe it's a bit of the artist curse, having to switch things up a lot. I know there's a zen to be found in there, and some, you know, beauty in the patience of repetition. But I feel like when it comes to sketching, it should be like fun and childlike and a little ADD even, and there should be no real super internal judgments. Awesome. Okay, let's try a, I don't know, a kind of lead or plucky sort of line here. I do love the minimalism going on here. It's like we're floating on an island out in outer space somewhere with the most gorgeous. Let's hit this button and take what garbage we just did. There was one note in there I remember hearing that was a little off, and I think it was towards the end here. Let's fold it so we can see all the notes. I believe it's this one. It's the only one of its kind. That also helps indicate for me. Yeah, I think we fixed it. Okay, cool. Let's try a different waveform here. Nice. Alright, so let's unlink and unlink out of sync. That is one of our biggest, most used techniques here. And I think it's one of the most powerful features of this DAW, or any DAW. I believe Reaper may have a similar... I don't know too many DAWs that do automation quite like Ableton. Ableton really at least has put some focus in there, and although it could be better... Cool, almost like a... sort of like 80s cheese going on in there. Yeah, every DAW could be better. Back to that point. I have a hard time working in audio software without thinking of ways to improve it. I'm sure everybody does this. Alright, let's get the warp and filber. I really like the old garbage tape sound that it brings. And I think we need... I'm kind of, for now, liking the closeness of everything. Although hearing the reverb on this makes me feel like we should run everything through just a bit of reverb. Yeah, we need to automate that. Cool. I have a feeling this sketch is going to be a little more in the shorter vein, because I feel like when it comes to minimal music, you don't want to overdo it. That is one of the more difficult parts of a sketch, is knowing when to quit, knowing when to, or just really not even a sketch, just the difficult part of a song is knowing when to finish it, how to finish it, when to call it done. You can look at the timeline and say, okay, I want to go at least 5 minutes. That's one way to do it. I personally find that being too rigid about it is, you know, sometimes defeats the goodness of the good, defeats the good vibes, the good creative vibes sometimes. Yeah, let's automate that. At least in my offthesky project, I have found that having 2 main sections of a song, 2 or 3 main parts, that, you know, the difficulty for me is always like the transitions between those main sections, making them all make sense. Especially when there's like a key change, it can be very difficult to not sound cheesy there. But I always try to consider a song done when I've got at least 2 main sections, so there's like some, it's not just the same thing over and over for 5 to 6 minutes. I even used to challenge myself to try and create these 20-minute pieces. Like the release I did called Evolute of an Ion Apple is one example of trying to create a lot of movements, and I think that was a series of like 10 sketches ultimately that got combined, and ultimately a lot of stuff just thrown out because yeah, I got really picky. I'm always really picky with my own music. Like, I'm very much of the opinion that there's just a lot of sonic noise and garbage out there already, and that it's really good to be super selective and picky. That can also make the process very difficult mentally, because there is, you know, we ultimately want to put stuff out and have that satisfaction, and, you know, sometimes it's easy to like rush that process of, I grapple with that still, even after 20 plus years of doing this. Something I'm still working on is like, just go slow, you know, don't rush it. But it's hard not to do that when you are feeding off of that feeling of needing to complete something or have a goal finished, or, you know, a self-affirmation of yeah, it's tough to like put those sort of needs down in favor of just creating something slowly that has a lot more long-term merit. I've definitely fallen prey many times, so I'm not one to talk. There are certain pieces I've done, especially, that I'm just almost ashamed of at this point, because I feel like they were rushed out, or there were just things that it could have taken so much more time on. Now that I'm sitting with this delay effect that we have put on here, I'm almost feeling like it's garbling things up a little too much. And I think we should automate this wet and dry so that it only kicks on every now and then. Let's get this clip. Sweet. Cool. I do kind of like this brittleness that comes out of it. When this wet and dry goes up, it's kind of a nice sound. Cool. Let's smooth that out. All right, sweet. Yeah, this Knight Rider sort of lead here. I'm not sure if I'm feeling it yet. Some of it I am. Okay, so I think what I want to try to bring this more in focus with what I'm feeling in my head is put a probability gate. Yeah, let's try to spell that right. Probability gate. Yes, and I think it's down here. There's a max for live patch I'm looking for. Yes, I think this one. No, we want the current project one, yeah, because otherwise then when you open this project later, it won't find this file even though it's already in the, yeah, it'll be like referenced somewhere else. All right. I think this this note here is not doing it for me. Maybe this sine wave again. Cool, and now I'm feeling this beat repeat thing also needs to be pulled in and out. I do feel like it's really important to try and keep things fresh, and when you start to notice certain sounds in your sketch kind of overstaying their welcome, you know, trying to figure out how to like make those a little more interesting is really huge. Obviously the tremolo is a really simple means of like just allowing it to sort of fade in and out of volume so that it's not so constant. So we should get some of these items on this monster rack to sort of fade in and out so they're not so... Now that I'm hearing the space birds, the volume is coming after the reverb, so it sounds a bit jarring in my opinion when I'm pulling this volume down pretty far and pretty fast. So let's fix that. We'll just actually, let's go ahead and unlink this and just pull it off the grid a little bit so that after this playhead gets to a certain point, this thing's going to be way out of sync with everything else. The thing I love about unlinked clips pulled off of the grid. All right, let's actually just pull this one out over here. Out onto the very end, so the whole Uber rack goes through that. And now that I'm at it, I want to double check all these other crazy chains. And let's go ahead and remove the reverbs, since they all seem to have their own, which is part of the inefficiency. Reverbs do cost CPU-wise. The built-in Ableton reverbs are not the best as far as CPU efficiency goes. The, I think, best reverb I've found to date, as far as low CPU use, is the Valhalla Supermassive, which we've used here before. And it is incredibly efficient CPU-wise. Now, it's not technically 100% a reverb, but it has the capability of making pretty amazing reverb these sounds. There's a whole section of the presets. I couldn't recommend getting this plugin more. It's got all these great algorithms, as you've seen before on in these sketches. Yeah, just tons of great reverbs here. Like, here's one that's just enormous. I mean, most all reverb effects are just a series of delays and all-pass filters. If you've ever looked under the hood of, like, say, a Max for Live patch or a Reactor. Convolution, of course, does its own special thing. So yeah, this may be way too much reverb. I mean, we are floating on an island in outer space, sipping on some alien drink. Let's go ahead and automate all of these to give them some frequency. And now that I'm hearing this analog lead section here too, it's kind of almost reminding me of that old, amazing old 8-bit Nintendo game Metroid. There are certain levels. There was one level, I can't remember which one. There was like a lead line of some kind that had similar notes. Okay, let's move that out. All right. Sometimes this automation stuff can be a little boring, you know, when you want to automate all the knobs of something. But I think a little bit goes a long way. Let's hold down Shift and drag it in there. And then... wow, crazy stuff happening. A lot of generative stuff going on in this Improv Creation 3 C-Rack. I couldn't recommend more looking in there and just sort of dissecting it. Honestly, I really don't know without looking at it at this point what it's doing, how it's doing what it's doing. I know it's a lot of grain delays. It's all Ableton effects. It's the vinyl distortion making that crackle sound as a starting point, usually sent through grain delays, and the saturator effect gets some really nice sounds out of it. The auto filter, some of those feedback loop sections of that auto filter are really something I was using a lot back then when I was building these crazy chain monster racks. Yeah, so we definitely need to automate the attack on that analog lead, or Metroid lead line. All right, let's clean this up. I found that when you select a section like this and you hold down Shift, if you have less points in there, it moves a lot smoother. Okay. Almost done. Uber rack. Yes, okay. This modular density is the last one I want to focus on. I believe these two are tied together. Alright, cool. Let's finish this one up. And I'm going to put this warp and flow over on the very end, right before this. And we may not need this hybrid reverb anymore, so I'm going to sit with it being off for a bit. Alright, let's try a no probability gate over here and see if that does anything for us. I do think I like the probability down there. When this thing is just a little more sparse, it is kind of nice. I mean, this is definitely turning into a very minimal ambient type of piece. You could throw a very slow pulsing beat in there, you know, if one were so inclined. I kind of almost want to hear what a little bass in there might sound like. So let's see here. If I can just find my way. Always lost in my own woods. Let's see what happens. I like this pulse. Now let's bring it in there. Just a little drive. I do kind of like the concept of this pitch kind of warping up and down a little bit. Like we're bobbing around out there in space. Try something else with the kick. And you can actually make other types of percussive instruments with a kick module. Doesn't always have to be the classic kick sound. Yeah, space whales. I'm not sure if I'm ready to go there. That's a classic new age music move. I mean, there are definitely some cheesy elements to the whole genre of eclectic, you know, which does sort of tie into some of the 80s new agey cheese. The whole fourth world genre, which isn't huge, but it's also kind of a part of that eclectic styles of music. Also pulls from some cheesy places from days long ago, 70s, 80s, sometimes 90s, kind of cheesy sampled styles of music. You know, back when it was so much more innocent in electronic music. Yeah, right. I kind of like these two sort of playing off each other a little bit. Let's try just like a maybe just like a real like clicky kind of short. Yeah, there we go. These drum modules are great because they do respond to velocity, so we can utilize the velocity module with some random in there, pull down the high, cap it a little bit. Let's just get that going on at all of these. Almost like a kind of click. pull down the decay for this section. All right, I'm gonna just duplicate this, and for this, pull out that clicky and leave that in for this. And for this one, let's stretch the length, so that only happens every so often. And let's go ahead and just keep that delay down all the way for that one. Okay, so I think, let's just copy one of these and paste it, kind of get like a little bouncing ball effect. And let's make this link much longer and put some more of these bouncy ball effect type things, and I think we can just drag these out, sort of, you know, stretch them. We could reverse it. It's not the most real or best sounding guess you could say gravity effect. Let's have a listen. This thing needs, I think, a bit of stereo action. In fact, let's group all these. And let's get that drive down on there. Okay, so chorus phaser pre. This one, if we want to get effects on this group, we need to go ahead and make a through. Let's summon a gate, a portal. All right, perk. Actually, wrong one. Whoops. All right. Do this one. Perk. Yes. All right. Now let's move this effect over here so we can automate it. Go ahead and give this one kind of an arbitrary longer length to start. I think when I'm done here, what I'm going to do is play with the wet and dry this chorus, because I don't want it to be so consistently or constantly on, constantly sort of affecting things in the same exact way. This definitely sounds like a bit of a modular synth sort of feel there. Rather expressive. All right, let's drill in and unlink. not want to do that. Cool. Now for this one. Alright, let's cut that, paste that there, duplicate it. Nope, let's cut it and paste it here so that it combines a little more. Yeah, it's kind of interesting when we stopped the playhead. So if I hold down Shift and Space, we start back up where we left off. This makes me want to try to pull in that transport start-stop template. Cool. Okay, just another. Gonna duplicate this. Turn off this multiply by 20. Let's not automate that. I think it's got a very like subtle sort of course going on here. And sometimes you can just get a bunch. We could multi-band split it also. I believe we have an audio utility for that. I'd be really surprised if we don't. Or there's definitely something in here that's already multi-banded, so let's go ahead and utility left right with separate controls. Let's just start there. Effects here. Okay, I think we can do some really weird stuff by simply, where is that EQ3? Yeah, let's go ahead and so really we just want the left side to be affected, and we'll duplicate this twice. This one will be the mid, this one is the high. Let's change these settings a little bit for each one. We'll go ahead and 100% wet on those. Cool, let's copy this and paste it over into the right side. So now we got some crazy chorus happening. It's really egregious use of chorus, but who cares? I'm actually kind of curious what this is going to sound like on the whole thing. It's pretty subtle, to be honest. Yeah, that makes everything feel pretty drugged out. Alright, well for now we'll just leave it on there. We'll call this chorus monkey, and let's save this in for future use. Or just to be forgotten, as we have so many things in here now. Space this thing out even more. And one good way to do that is just you could duplicate one tremolo and just change the rate down a little bit. So these two are going to really kind of affect each other, like crossing only so often where they allow sound to come through. Change the shape up a little bit, and this will basically affect the attack. think we need this here anymore. Not that it was hurting anybody. Let's see, what is this phaser X for? I don't even remember making most of these. Well, there it is, 4 phasers. 4 old school phasers. Definitely juices things up a bit. Yeah, it definitely adds a lot of weirdness. And a lot of bass, that is for sure. So maybe we can just pull the bass down a little bit. Specifically, these seems like these one frequencies, and of course, you know, I'm doing these mixes all on headphones. Not the best either. You know, one system may load this sketch up if you've got one type of set of speakers or headphones, and it may sound amazing, and another person with a whole different room, a whole different set of speakers or headphones may listen to it and be like, oh my god, this sounds like muddy garbage. In fact, I think most of these sketches are probably pretty muddy in the end, but again, we don't spend too much time focused on the mix, perfecting the mix of it here. That is just a little bit too much, you know, it's a final stage kind of thing when it comes to creating. I feel like the mix, just, you know, you want to tweak it along the way because you know, want to make your life easier instead of listening to trying to make a song with a terrible mix the whole time. But I always try to prioritize sketching as let's have more, spend more cycles on creative ideas and less time on getting the mix all perfect. Alright, a little wacky. Did we get any of that? Looks like we did, yay. I want that super wacky stuff. It's always a fine line here between just straight up dumb and interesting. Let's sure broke our one effect rule. You know, trying to make an interesting sounding sketch with just only one effect is not easy. Unless it's a multi-effect and it just contains all the effects you need in there. Yeah, really slamming through now. Let's pull that all the way up. Let's dive in there and fix some of this. Alright, yeah, a little too insane for my taste. Sometimes you just need to slam it, need to thrash it, but let's see. In this case, I think we're going to go with much more subtle movements. I'm curious what a tiny little blip. I'm going to keep in mind this move here because if once this cycle kind of plays out, that sounds like garbage in there, I'm gonna come back and remove it. Now let's try a grain pitch down. Sometimes this can obscure things in really nice ways. Sometimes it just muddies up. Now I can just tell when it's too loud. Yeah, you gotta definitely play with the mix some. Making a drunken EQ like this. One of my favorite things to do. Especially when you're working with sine tones like this. Sine tones can be very incessant, and I think it's nice to add some almost like heat wave style. I don't know if you've ever heard sound moving through heat. It is similar to a lot of phasing, a lot of pitch warbling a little bit. It's a pretty cool effect and very, very difficult to achieve in DSP and have it actually sound not super sci-fi. Can't say I've ever achieved that effect. Alright, we are almost close to the end on this one. I want to keep it minimal. So don't want to overwork things too much. Let's automate the envelope. So far the chorus effect before, that we had those little spikes, not doing anything terrible, so we'll just forget about that for now. Guess it's tricky dealing with, you know, these levels of automation. You do have to keep a lot of stuff in mind. You have to remember that you did certain things in case stuff goes haywire. Kind of have to be cognizant along the way of like make some changes, try to listen through to them, hope for the best. Let's get another tremolo in there. And now that I've sat with this for a bit, I definitely hear too much of that crazy chorus modular FM stuff. Kind of want to tame it just a bit. I don't know what that means yet. It's almost a little too aggressive, so it may mean, since I don't really want to mess with this wet and dry, I kind of like that. I want to make it just a little less obvious, so I'm going to put it in its own wet and dry, like double wet and dry. Let's sit with that. Now let's remove this plate. Let's try some of these other. In fact, we can automate those to change up slowly over time. still so much bass versus everything else. It could a lot of it be these phaser, this coarse monkey thing. Let's try turning these off. Have a listen. Yeah, that's definitely affecting certain things. Let's just drop an EQ on the end. Don't die on me. I feel like this is a pretty lightweight sketch, so I can't see anything crashing at this point, just for what we're doing here. Now let's get a tremolo in there, but we'll set the phase, and now we've got our auto pan again. Alright, almost set here. We need a little more volume on this. Sometimes when you add a lot of effects, you kind of lose things a little bit. I guess we could reset this back. And I do feel like I want a little less of the high end on this reverb. But I really love what's coming out of here at times. Alright, let's automate this between 0 and -12, sometimes -24. Mostly just 0 and -12. Let's have a look. Looking good. Cool. Not so much eclectic anymore. I think this piece has taken a turn once we started adding in these synthetic percussion bits. It's a lot more sci-fi sounding at this point. Spacey. For better or for worse. Not necessarily a bad thing. Now, let's have a listen to what this Urek will sound like. Kind of with a drastic swath of ring delay at -12. This random flipped on every now and then. I do like some of the unpredictable weirdness happening in this. This sketch overall has almost that sort of loose-leafed, generative, kind of modular sort of feel in some ways. Very cool. Okay, let's do our due diligence of unlinking everything. One of these days, I will commission somebody to make a Max Your Life patch that just unlinks it for you and then creates all this random stuff. I'm sure that's doable. If any of you crazy people happen to be watching this, have that ability to create something like that in Max for Live, let me know. Private message me. I might have a job for you, or a commission a little project. I'm sure it's not a hard thing to make. Now let's play with. Yeah, if we really want to make things sound underwater or really on drugs. Yeah, a subtle delay movement. Key for this, to not make it sound goofy, is to really have it move very slowly. No sudden shifts of this delay knob. That's going to be a lot more subtle and interesting. Yeah, I don't want this hyper reverb in there anymore. Now that I'm... Let's keep this at around 38, and then every now and then have it just bust onto full blast. And we'll have this happen every now and then. And this one will be just a little faster. And just a little more of a peak afterwards. For whatever reason, who knows? Okay. Feeling good about this minimal ambient drone underwater outer spacer or whatever type of piece. Some really funky stereo stuff happening in this song. I think I do like this crazy chorus monkey thing. Well, let's have a hear what 2 in a row will do. Oh, it's almost making me seasick to listen to it. We could probably stand to put a compressor on some of this. Cool. Okay, I think I'm feeling all right about this. Just a little bit of saturation sometimes helps add a nice feeling of like warmth and interest with overtones. We'll just automate this bass. Stretch that out. Let's reverse this section here, duplicate it, copy a chunk there, and then let's clean the whole thing up. There, a little more off even. I could probably add effects on the end of this for ages. Let's try a +12. Yeah, every now and then that thing will just jump on. Alright, very cool. Well, let's just for shits and giggles, let's jump this thing up. Alright, very cool. I think I'm liking that. So, yeah, some very nice little pads coming through there. Unexpected, very melodic. I think that corpus really helps bring a lot of smooth beauty to this thing. All right, this otherwise just awkward and weird, undulating piece. Okay. Let's see, random jumping off point. LFO tempo, yes. Where you been all my life? I don't think we want this section. And I don't think we want this. Say, so let's see, map. Yeah, we don't need that one then. So we've got rate. Okay. What happens if we take this and turn this off? Cool. Yeah. Future dad jazz indeed. 100 years from now, dads will be like, this is great. As their kids are like, this sucks. I'd say even 200 years from now, it might take a lot longer for this kind of music to be considered like jazz. Although I think a piece like this would sound fun with some impromptu sax or some really expressive drums on top of it. Alright, I've mucked this thing up well enough. I think I should call it a day. I do like these really slow, strange, slow sections. Maybe we'll pull this offset up just a little bit. Oh, that doesn't seem to be working anymore. Did we break it? No, there it goes. Let's take that rate back up then. All right. Well, I think we sure definitely hit the goal of making it weird. Whether this thing ultimately ended up better than it was in the beginning, that's hard to say. You know, we could remove this here and probably make things normal out a little bit. Because I do think this ultimately kind of denormals the piece, having that corpus in there. Cool. Okay. Well, until next time, you know, keep messing it up, because that's a good way to discover some fun new things. All right. See you in Sketch 98.